Pleasant good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You're very welcome to this evening's class of steel. Today is Friday, the 10th of September. Wow, the year is going quickly. Friday, the 10th of September, 2021. And we are very privileged to have the presence of Her Excellency Dr. Anita Davis-DeFoe, who manages the class of steel. She's our senior lecturer in the class of steel and senior mentor. And she is the person who manages our Friday evening sessions when she is available from her extremely busy schedule. So this evening, we celebrate Her Excellency Dr. Anita Davis-DeFoe. However, before we start this evening's class, I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the presence of His Royal Majesty, King Edwin Madu. Your Majesty, would you kindly officially greet the class as we proceed to go into other greetings and welcomes? Your Majesty, King Edwin Madu, you're welcome to this evening's class of steel.
Mute. Your Excellency, it's a pleasure. Good evening. And my warmest greetings to everyone in the class of steel, all His Excellencies, Her Excellencies. I say good evening to you all. It's a pleasure to be with you today. Thank you.
Thank you so very much for your greeting, Your Majesty. And I will say, sit back, relax, Your Majesty, and enjoy a wonderful class. I want to acknowledge His Excellency Dr. Donald Ewers, who is the Chief of Protocol in the class of steel. Your Excellency Dr. Ewers, you're welcome this evening to the class.
A pleasant good evening, Your Excellency, Dr. Michael Steele, and all those who are in the house, in the class of steel, and His Royal Highness, the King. We greet you, and we just look forward to receive a wonderful knowledge from Dr. Defoe. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. We want to acknowledge the youth leader for the class of steel in the person of Olukoya Olusogun. Your Excellency Olukoya, just greet the class as we jump straight into the class this evening. This evening's class is going to start in 2 minutes. So go ahead, Your Excellency Olukoya, you are welcome.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I welcome everyone to the class of steel this evening. His Royal Majesty and our senior lecturer, you're welcome and all that one.
Thank you so very much for your acknowledgement. Your Excellency, Dr. Anita Davis, it is over to you, ma'am.
Well, good evening, good afternoon to all the excellencies in the house, to the King that is joining us this evening. It is indeed my divine pleasure and honor to be with you on this Friday in the class of steel. I want to, as we're thinking about this last quarter of 2021, and you're thinking about those things that you aspire to, whether as an individual or as a team, I want you to think about leadership. I want you to think about how do you, as a leader, how do you function? How do you inspire and how do you motivate others that may be on your team? You know, each and every one of us has a leader within us. And I want you to ponder for a moment, what would you do? What would you be able to achieve? Who would you be able to impact? What communities would you be able to transform if you were able to become the leader that you were divinely destined to be. And so on this Friday, in this class of Steel, we're going to talk about what it means to develop the leader within. Next slide, please. When you think about leadership, and when you think about accomplishing anything, whether in your personal life, whether in your work life, whether in your life as a community leader, it all goes back to being able to lead yourself. And if you are to impact, whether you are impacting through an organization, you're impacting a nation, you're leading a political party, you're leading a faith organization, it really comes down to your ability to lead. And one of the most difficult challenges that we all face as global leaders is the ability to lead yourself. If you want to be successful, if you want to be impactful, if you want to transform lives, transform communities, impact nations, it's about your ability to lead. And too often we find when there are shortfalls in an organization, in a nation, it really speaks to the level, the capacity, and the competencies of who is sitting in that leadership position. You know, it's very easy to be on an organizational chart and in a box and you are the leader. But leadership, real true leadership, is about being able to impact, to inspire the greatness of others on your team, to be able to really harness their individual brilliance collectively in order to achieve an outcome. And that is what leaders globally face, that challenge each and every day. Next slide, please. So when you're thinking about leadership, often people will say, oh, he or she was a born leader. Some people believe that just because someone has natural skills and competencies for a leader, that leadership can be taught. Well, I'm here to tell you that people can learn how to lead. Leadership is something that can be taught. It is not just for people that were born leaders. Some people have a strong skill, a strong natural knack for being a leader, but everybody can be taught how to lead effectively, and how to lead for outcomes. Next slide. So when you're thinking about yourself and you're thinking about what do I need to do to really lead? Because no matter what we accomplish in this life, it all relates to leadership. Everything that we do, whether in your personal life or whether in your professional life, we make it's linked to the decisions, and it's linked to how you aspire to impact the lives of others. So now, the leading leader, this is someone who is born with leadership qualities. And when you're reflecting back on yourself, your ability to lead, what you're able to actually achieve, there's some people that they just have a natural ability to inspire people to greatness, to inspire people to give their best. You know, a leading leader, they've seen leadership model for them, and they have been socialized to lead, and they see the competencies, they see the skills that are necessary to lead. Sometimes the leading leader, they've also had some leadership training. So they have this natural knack for leading. They've had some leadership training. They've seen it modeled. Then remember, leadership can really work good for the good or for the bad, because leadership is really, in its simplest term, about influence. A leading leader is someone who has that self-discipline, that they are able to stay the course, that even when they face challenges and circumstances and situations, they still stay focused on that mission, on that goal. That's the leading leader. Next slide, please. The learned leader, they've seen it modeled through their life. They've had to learn how to really be self-disciplined. And as I said, they have learned leadership through training. Next slide, please. So the latent leader, if you're trying to assess where are you, what kind of leader are you? This person has just seen leadership model recently, that they're starting to be around other leaders. They're starting to see the behaviors and the habits of someone that is leading. And they're learning how to be a leader through training. You see all the time, there's all kinds of leadership training. As I shared, us on the John Maxwell team that I'm a member of, as well as here the class of Steel, we learn through modeling and coaching each other. A latent leader has the self-discipline to become a good leader. Next slide, please. Excuse me. The limited leader, that's someone who has had really little experience and no exposure to leadership. They've had little or no training, but they would like to become a leader. So when you think about yourself and you think about your journey, are you a limited leader? Are you a latent leader? Are you a learned leader? Where are you in your journey? How do you want to develop the leader within? What are your aspirations? Who do you want to impact? Is it you want to impact through a faith-based organization, corporate, through public service in government? What kind of leader are you right now? And what do you aspire to become? Next slide, please. When you think about a leader is really someone who is harnessing the capabilities of those folks that are on their team. That is someone who is able to harness all of the skills, all of the competencies of people on that team, because leadership is about influence. It's in its simplest terms. It is about influence, because what a leader is doing is you are inspiring people on the team to give of their greatest self. Leaders inspire people to use their skills, their brilliance, their talents, all in quest of a goal, of an outcome. That's what leadership is in its simplest term. You know, you are showing others how to accomplish something. So a leader is an inspirer. A leader is a teacher. A leader is also a manager, where you are managing processes and you're inspiring people. Leaders do both. Yes, you manage the processes, but you inspire the people. You inspire people so much so that when you do it and you do it correctly, that people can see the vision. They can see the direction that you're taking them in, and they have bought into it. They are giving their all, and that is the true sign of a servant leader. When a leader is not able to mobilize the team, not harness their skills, then there has been some gap in communicating the outcomes that you hope to achieve. The goal, the mission is not clear. And thus always a sign when you see a lot of chaos, when you see a lot of confusion, then people have not bought into the mission and the vision that that leader is sharing. Next slide, please. So managing versus leadership. Many times when you ask, what is the difference? Well, you manage in the process, you manage in systems. People often say, oh, I'm managing people. No, you do not manage people, because while we often say that, you as a leader, you're managing the process, you're managing the information. You inspire people, because this is part of the challenge that leaders are facing globally right now. People always have a choice as to how much of themselves they share within an organizational setting. And good leaders are able to inspire people to give their all. You manage processes, remember that. The process, the system, and you inspire people, because when you inspire people, people will give their all, and then they contribute also to the management of the process. When you're leading, you're casting the vision. Where do we want to go? What do we want to accomplish? What is the destination? And we have seen globally, as we watch the news, we look at social media, we see so many examples on a daily basis where leadership, or the lack of servant leadership, whether it has contributed to the maximization of talent and outcomes, or if it's contributed to the demise of an organization or a community or a nation. Managing versus leadership. As a leader, you need both of them in your toolkit, but you need to understand when you use each approach, managing versus leader. Next slide, please. So as I said, and as my mentor teaches us all the time in the John Maxwell team, the simple definition of leadership is influence. Because if you are leading, you certainly are influencing others to follow you in quest of a mission, in quest of a specific outcome. That is what leadership is in its simplest term. It's influencing the behavior of others, which can be for good or for bad. Next slide, please. So when you think about influence, how are you using your influence? You know, everybody influences somebody. We see it all the time. And you never know who they're being influenced by, or how much we influence others. Everybody has some level of influence. Often people will come and say, you know, I was watching you. Many times people have mentors. They have folks that motivate them. And sometimes they actually have relationships with those people. And many times they don't. Many times people don't even know that someone is watching their actions, watching their behaviors, but they are. People watch you. And many times you are motivating, you are influencing people, and you don't even know it. The best investment in the future is a proper influence today. Many times people are socialized by others' experiences, and that really serves to influence their behavior. So you to ask yourself on a daily basis, what's influencing me? How am I being influenced? Who and what has taken residence in my mind? How is that impacting my behavior? You know, influence is a skill that can be developed. If you are functioning and people see that you're impactful, people start to want to emulate your behavior. They may want to replicate your programs. People are influenced by things that they see. Social media has become a major influencer. And what is so frightening when you think about social media is that everything that's on social media is not fact. But many times people take those notes of fiction and believe that they are fact. What is influencing you as an individual and a leader? You must ask yourself that on a daily basis. Next slide, please. So when you think about leadership, there's really 5 levels of leadership. And you have to ask yourself, what kind of leader am I? What kind of the leadership responsibility do I have? Where is my sense of leadership coming from? So now the 5 levels of leadership are simply this. The first one is position, and that's simply on an organizational chart. You may see someone on the hierarchy, and they are in a position of leadership. Sometimes they are actually leading people. Sometimes it's just a name on a chart, and they really are not leading anyone. They can't lead themselves. They're not very effective. They're not very efficient. But on the hierarchy, on the organization chart, they are a leader. A permission leader, this is when you have been tapped to lead. And this is a combination of your position, and you have been, by virtue of that position, you have been given a permission to lead. Production is you are actually producing outcomes. You are actually are achieving impact. That is really the 3rd level. You've gone from merely being in a position of leadership. People are following you. You have a permission to lead those that are following you. You now have moved to another level that you are producing. You're actually producing outcomes and results. And then people development, now you are developing the folks on your team. True leaders don't just work to create a host of followers. True leaders are looking to create the next generation of leaders. So this is when you get into people development. You are mentoring, you're coaching, you are providing them with skills and tools so that they can become an effective leader. And then personhood is when you're leading people to the point personhood is really important. I can't stress enough that true leaders, they work to embody leadership skills and strengths and teach those and nurture those in other people. Leaders who are afraid of others, they only try to create a group of additional followers. But true servant leaders, impactful leaders, global leaders, they are looking to create other leaders. They are looking to really equip them with tools and strategies so that they are able to soar. Next slide, please. So as you're moving up, as you're developing your leadership skills within yourself, the higher you're going up the leadership ladder, it's going to take longer, because the more and more you want to achieve, the more and more you want to impact, it's going to take more and more time. And it's also going to take you and require you to give more commitment. It will require you, when you want to be impactful, you want to be global, when you really want to be a champion of change, it will take you more time. It will require more commitment from you. It is also, as you're going up the ladder, it will become easier to lead. The more you skill, the more you become aware, the more you get to know yourself, the more you kind of incorporate skills and competencies in your toolkit, you're able to pass them on. When you're able to do that, you grow more and more and more within. But it's not something that happens overnight. Leaders, you often hear, leaders read. There's always new information. New information is coming out as I'm here chatting with you now. Leaders are always learning. We are in a knowledge economy. We are in an economy where the more you know, the more you learn. You should be on a quest to be a lifelong learner. Learn each and every day. There's nothing wrong with saying, while we're waiting for the next slide, when you think about where are you, what am I doing with my leadership growth journey? Who do I want to impact? What areas can I strengthen my learning in, my knowledge? You remember, there's knowledge and there's wisdom, and knowledge is going and studying the textbook and you learn something, but wisdom is through your life lessons, those that mentor and coach you. That's where you get wisdom. It's learning from past experiences. What were your takeaway? Remember, in every occurrence that happens to you, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. It's never a loss. You're always learning something. Remember that often when we don't get the outcome that we want, we often have this mindset, oh, I lost. No, you never lose. You're always gaining. You're either learning or winning. Remember that. And both of those are valuable. One of the key things to being a leader and leading is priorities. What are your priorities? What are your priorities as a leader? Are you focused on your priorities? Do you know where they are? Do you have a goal notebook where you have your goals and your priorities? Do you prioritize your day? How are you working your plan? These are the kinds of things you ask yourself as a leader each and every day. Next slide, please. So often as leaders, we work very hard, but not smart. And so you have to ask yourself, am I working smarter? How can I work smarter? What tools do I need? How do I organize myself? How do I organize my team so that we're working smarter, not harder? So one of the first things is organizing your workspace, organizing your team. Do you organize or do you agonize? When you're not organized, you agonize. You have this long list of things to do. You have the team to lead. You have the projects. And when we are unorganized, it's very difficult to try to make our way through that when we're in such a valley of chaos. Organize yourself, organize your work, organize your day. Do you choose or lose? Even when you don't choose, a choice is being made. You choose that on this day, I have 10 things to do. Okay, on this day, I'm going to work on these first 5. I'm going to spend 30 minutes on this, 45 minutes on this. Organize your time. Everybody in this circle gets the same 86,400 seconds each and every day. How do you use yours? Do you maximize them? Do you lose them? Do you waste them? Maximize your time. Think about it. You get 86,000 mate. How will you approach? When you're not evaluating, that opens you up to do the same thing over and over and over. And when you're not learning the lessons, when you're not gaining that wisdom, then you operate in the same fashion. And that is not what productive, impactful leaders do. Next slide, please. So here's some priority principles I want you to think about and you can put into your tool bank. You know, your priorities never stay put. Whatever you have, the priorities always going to shift. They're always going to change. So this is why you got to have a plan and work your plan. You cannot overestimate the unimportance of practically everything. Everything has some value. Whether it's family time, whether it's work time, whether it's relationship time with your collaborative partners, everything is important and everything is of value. The good is the enemy of the best. Are you settling? Are you just saying, okay, well, that's the best I can do? And really, that's really not your best. It's really just good. But you've decided to just level off there. Remember, for anything and everything, there's always continuous improvement. You can always improve on something. There is no state of perfection. And too often we have this mindset, I'm not going to start this business. I'm not going to start this project. I'm not going to do whatever until XYZ happens. Well, I hate to tell you, very rarely do the stars all line up. There's very, very rarely a moment of perfection. The best thing you can do is take one foot, put it in front of the other, and get started. You can always get in a state of continuous improvement. Getting started is the hardest thing for anybody, a seasoned leader to an emerging leader. And regardless of what people say, you can't have it all. You can't have it all simultaneously. Now, you can have it sequential, but you can't have it all. So you have to have your priority. What is your focus right now? What is your focus as an organization, as a leader? Whatever you are finding yourself leading, prioritize your work, plan your work, and work your plan. Next slide, please. Too many priorities paralyze us. Have you ever had something where you had so many things? You said, oh, I'm doing my to-do list, and you have 20 things on there. Well, just really thinking about how much time it's going to take to do those things. Why even start your day with a to-do list that has 20 or 30 things in when there's no way you have a capacity and the time to get it done? What is best to perhaps do those things that you can do quickly, get those out of the way, and then work your list. Everybody should have a daily to-do list. Organize your time. Organize them so that you don't get paralyzed. Many times when people say, oh, I'm a procrastinator, they're really not a procrastinator. They're so overwhelmed with their to-do list, their task list, they haven't organized it that they feel overwhelmed. Think about so much the priorities that you have, the little things. When you have so many little things that are demanding your time and you haven't organized your day, then that's when we start having challenges. And when you have timelines and deadlines, then those things help you to organize your day, organize your time. a certain time. Maximize your time so that you can be most impactful. If you know that you are sharpest at the morning hours, then your most challenging projects, your most challenging meetings should be that time of day. If you know your energy level in the afternoon lessons, then that's when you should do those projects that if you're not totally focused, that you can still do them well, and still not have to need that extra energy that perhaps you don't have at that time of day. You know, you don't want to, as so many people say, that often when people are transitioning to eternal life and they reflect, they often have some significant aha moments, and they think about what they should have done, what they could have done, how they should have spent their time. You don't want to wait until that time to start living life, to start going after your dreams, and you don't really want to learn about what was really important when it's too late, not after you've lost it, or not when you couldn't maximize it. Next slide, please. So when you're planning, when you're choosing or losing, you want to think about what's required of me. What gives me the greatest return? And what is most rewarding? You know, when you are really working to your strengths, when you are working with your divine assignment, when you are really focused and working purposeful, then you will find that many times it doesn't even feel like you're working. It's many times when we are finding ourselves trying to chase somebody else's dream, or when we find ourselves not being purposeful in our work, or when we find ourselves really not on our divine agenda, but on somebody else's, when we wonder why it's so difficult, why it's so challenging, why we feel so frustrated, because you're not aligned as a leader. And you see many times when leaders, when they're not successful in a setting, because that's not their divine assignment. And many times, for whatever reason, we do things because we think that's either what's expected of us, or we're trying to please someone else. But in the end, when you are working purposeful, on purpose, when you are on your divine assignment, you will find that resources, opportunities, things will come your way if you're doing it on purpose. But when you are off track, when you become derailed, and you find yourself just pushing door after door, trying to get the door open, if the door is closed, that's not the door for you. And it doesn't matter. The door might crack, you might get in, you might step a foot in, but in the end, if it's not your divine assignment, the level of success that you would envision, it'll be very difficult to accomplish it. Next slide, please. So, what do you need as a leader? What's your most important ingredient as a leader in the practice of leadership? And certainly, without question, it's integrity. Because if you don't have integrity as a leader, where you may end up, what you might end up doing, and who you might end up doing with is very frightening. Leaders, servant leaders, impactful leaders, leaders that have integrity, those are leaders that transform corporations, they transform communities, they transform nations. And we can Google and ask about leaders without integrity and see the impact that they've had. And it can be just really, really frightening, because leaders and the respect comes from integrity. Research has found even when a leader has to share bad information, if the followers know that this is a person, this is a leader of integrity, even They have found when they had to lay people off, or they had to cut their wages, or they had to deliver some very alarming information, the fact that those folks on the team knew that that leader was somebody of integrity, they still accepted the information. And so we often get confused and think leadership is about, oh, how somebody, oh, they like me, they like me. No, that's not what leadership is about. Leadership is about being respected. It's about inspiring people to the greater good. It's about impacting corporations and communities and nations. That's what leaders do. Next slide, please. So why is integrity important? Well, you know, have you ever had interactions with a leader and you thought the leader was kind of shady? So if the leader, you didn't believe the leader, you were always looking out of your side eye. You were always looking over your shoulder. You believe little to nothing that that person said. That's a leader that has not built trust. And part of leading, and as a leader, is having those folks on your team to trust you because they know you are a person of integrity. Integrity helps to increase your influence factor, so to speak. If people know you're a person of integrity, when you speak, when you act, people pay attention. They believe you. They trust you. In the absence of trust, people are always speculating. They don't believe. And so as a global leader, and as you're looking to strengthen your leadership impact, you want to make sure that you're operating with integrity. When you have integrity, you have your standards, you have your values, and you don't let them waver. You have the courage. You might be the only voice in the room saying go right, and everybody else is saying left. Leadership with integrity is about courage too, because you may not always be sharing the insight. You may not always have the viewpoint that everybody else in the room. And it takes a strength of courage as a leader to be that one dissenting vote, to be that person that said, well, you know, I hear what you're saying, but I see it a different way. That takes courage and it takes integrity. And many times people sit in the room and they say nothing and they just keep their fingers crossed and hoping that they're not in the office that day or they're not around when they know that something is going to go awry, but they don't want to say anything. That is being a leader without integrity. Leadership is really about staying true to your core values on any given day, and you stay true to your core values, whether somebody's looking or whether they're not. Your core values, you carry them in your heart with you each and every day. Next slide, please. So when you think about why do you need to be a leader with integrity, you know, you can look yourself in the mirror and you can lead yourself before leading others. If you have integrity, if you have core values, those things guide and lead you. And you pass them on to those that are following you, to the leaders that you're nurturing. But you can't lead someone else. You can't demonstrate integrity if you don't have any. So it starts with you, Y-O-U, that face that greets you in the mirror. You know, also, you think about when you have integrity, you're credible. People know that when you speak, when you say something, when you share information, that you are doing it with a spirit of integrity. And they also know that you're a courageous enough leader. If you don't know, you need to research it, that you don't just share information or say something just to fill space in a room in a conversation, that you speak based on knowledge, wisdom, and research. And when you don't know, you say, let me find out. Because in this knowledge economy that we're in, information is changing so fast, and nobody but the Heavenly Father knows everything. Nobody does. And anybody that wants to pretend that they do, they are indeed pretending, because nobody knows everything. And when you work with integrity and you are acting with integrity, you don't have to really try to remember what you said from room to room, because if you work and walk with a spirit of integrity, you don't have to memorize and remember, look back at notes and say, well, okay, when I was in the room with these people, I said this. Then I went across over here and I said this with these people. You won't have so many different scenarios, so many messages that you would have to remember, because your message is constant. Next slide, please. So when you're thinking about what is your test as a leader, what are you going to be faced with? And the ultimate test of leadership is creating positive change. Because when you're leading a group, you're leading a company, you're leading a nation, it's really, as a servant leader, it is about creating positive change. And how do you create positive change? You need a team. You need those folks who have bought into the mission and the vision. That's how you create sustainable change, impactful change. Some of you say that you are focusing on the UN's Sustainable 17 and about quality of life changes. When you think about, you're not looking to do a Band-Aid approach, you're looking at something that's going to be sustainable, something that's replicable. That's an impactful leader. That's what you're focused on. Positive change for the greater good. Because when I soar, you soar. And when you think about Ubuntu says, I am because of you. And so that means that we are all in this together. We are a global village. And how can I be soaring? How can I be doing well if your quality of life? Ubuntu says to us, I am and you are. And that means I must care about my brother and my sister. Next slide, please. So when you think about change, unfortunately, most people don't like change. And what is an interesting phenomenon is that even when things are not working, when things are working poorly, when things are bad, even when people are miserable, they often fight change, and they have decided to settle, and they don't want to change because they've gotten comfortable being uncomfortable. And they just say, well, maybe this is the best we can do. Maybe there's all there is to life. And that couldn't be further from the truth. You know, sometimes people resist change because they didn't originate the idea for the change. They didn't initiate it. So, you know, they kind of fight it. Or they feel like, well, I've gotten into a routine, even though this is miserable, even though things are really bad, but I've gotten used to this. This is what I know. This is all I know. And people get stuck in a routine. Sometimes people fear change because they don't know. Sometimes people want to stick with what they know, even if it's not working, then try to embrace something new. And maybe sometimes they don't understand the change. So you as a leader, when you are looking to implement change, there is a way, there's a process. Google now, you know that so many millions of hits would come up about change management. How you do change, how you approach it, what's the best systematic way of implementing change, because change is not easy, even when it may be critically needed. Next slide, please. People also resist change because they fear failure. Oh man, if it's better to just stick with what we know. Wonder if we try this and it doesn't work. Well, what if you try it and it does work? And we need to take this word failure out of our vocabulary. For me, I say failure doesn't exist. What we as humans have decided to call failure, I suggest that you think of it in this way. When you try something, it doesn't work, or you don't get the results that you want the first time, what it's really telling you is change the process. Look at the process and see, what do I need to change? What do I need to modify? Because even in the failure, what we call failure is learning, because you know what to change. You know how to I had to try 10,000 times, as Thomas Edison says about the light. He says, no, I didn't fail all of those times. I was learning. It was part of the process. So it's mindset. So you have to ask yourself as a leader, what kind of mindset? If every time you have a bump in the road, every time you have a setback, and then if you said, oh my God, I failed, then you start putting that in your spirit. And so anytime you have a delay, you take it as a denial. Anytime that you have a challenge, you feel that, oh, okay, that's it. That's not the mindset of a leader. That's not a mindset of a global impactful leader. So you have to ask yourself the question, what is my mindset? How do I see opportunity? Am I focused on problems or possibilities? What is my mindset? Sometimes people don't see the reward. They don't say, well, what do we need that for? Things are working okay as they are. Why do we need to change? This will do. People get stuck, and then they just stay satisfied with getting by the way things are, instead of aspiring for something more. Next slide, please. So when you're thinking about your idea about change, what you're trying to do as a leader, think about how do I approach those that are on my team? How do I approach change? Do I embrace change? Do I feel like change is threatening? When you're looking at folks on your team and you're seeing how they respond, ask yourself, are they fearful of the change? Are they fearful and they don't want to put out the effort that's going to be required? That they say, oh man, this is a bit much. And there's this saying that always be remembered. Always be reminded that the only place that success comes before work is in the dictionary. Other than that, you got to do the work. If you want to get to the land of success, you have to think about what it's going to take. I think I will stop. There's much more that I want to share. I think I will stop on this version and I'll pick up on next Friday with the rest of this when we think about developing the leader within. And I want you to think about, as you're reflecting on yourself, what areas can I strengthen? Where do I have growth opportunities? What can I do so that I can become a more impactful leader? How can I impact those around me, my team? How can I really strengthen myself as a leader? What do I need to do? How do I need to see my possibilities? You know, there's a leader inside each and every one of us. And we play that out, whether in our jobs, whether in our day-to-day living, maybe in the family. You are a leader. And the more you're able to guide yourself, the more impact you're able to have on others. So I say to everybody, choose to develop the leader within, because the leader is inside you. Many of you probably have had leadership training. Many of you know there's some other areas you want to grow in. We never stop learning. We never stop growing. So I thank you for this opportunity to share with you from one of John's books about developing the leader within. And I look forward to picking up with the rest of this lesson about leadership development, and how you can become that leader that you're destined to be, that leader that you want to be, that leader that you need to be so that you can impact the community, your nation, your corporation, in whatever venue you use your leadership skills and knowledge. Be a transformer, be a convener, be a builder, be a doer. Because divinely, everybody in this circle, you have a divine assignment. You are to impact and transform in some way or another. And that divine assignment is yours. It doesn't matter what my assignment is, because everybody is unique as your DNA is, so is your assignment. And the choice becomes, will you answer that call, or will you pretend like you don't hear the phone ringing and not walk into your destiny? But destiny is calling you. I'm Dr. Anita Davis-DeFoe. It's been my honor and privilege to share in this class of Steel, and we will pick up on more about developing the leader within when I'm with you again. Peace and blessings.
Thank you so very much, Your Excellency, Dr. DeFoe. First thing, please allow me to apologize. As you see, I got totally knocked out of the room being the host, and I was unable to take any control. My system froze on me, and I wasn't able. So, Dr. DeFoe, please, I apologize to you for that glitch in the communication of the presentation this evening. Please, I humbly apologize for that.
Oh, there's no problem, Your Excellency. That probably was a good place divinely for us to stop. And I will pick up. We are all in this virtual space, and anything can happen. And so you get accustomed to the technology. Sometimes it works very smoothly. Sometimes there are hiccups. But that doesn't stop us at all.
Dr. DeFoe, we in the class will still appreciate you so much, because you, beyond being a great leader, a great teacher, you equally understand the dynamics of technology that we wrestle with and we try to work with. And equally, I want to appreciate all of you in the class of Steel for your patience, for your understanding, and for your continued support of the class of Steel and what we're trying to impact Africa and the nations with. With that being said, Your Excellency, Dr. DeFoe, I want to open the floor for questions because I think that this evening's class was very powerful. It was very helpful to me as well, even though I'm already a leader and a teacher. I so love your teaching, Your Excellency, because it continues to refresh us with those things that we need to be mindful of. And I want to open this evening to questions and comments, so that those that are in our audience, not just on LinkedIn and YouTube, but those on our global audience, and because our sessions are recorded, they can have something to look back to and possibly answer some of the questions they themselves, as leaders or emerging leaders, might have to ask. So with that being said, I'm going to pick on some of my audience for comments and questions. I'm going to start with His Excellency Dr. Donald Ewers for any question or any comment that you have this evening. And Your Excellency Dr. DeFoe, please, you are free to answer and respond. Individuals will speak with you directly for your response. Your Excellency Dr. DeFoe. Your Excellency Dr. Ewers, you're welcome.
A pleasant good evening, sir, and to Dr. DeFoe. It was very inspiring, your presentation and inspiration for this month. One of the things I would like to bring on the table to ask about when you're talking about leadership is knowing yourself. The first protocol as the leader, knowing yourself and the testing of your leadership. And I have various areas where I've done leadership before. But one of the things I'd like to bring before you, and it's a wide spectrum, is about mental toughness. There's different language we use. You're coming from an American background with a different kind of sense of humor, different way that how you articulate yourself. And from the UK, from the British or the European side, we tend to do our things slightly differently, but we sing out the same hymn sheet out of the same songbook. However, mental toughness, when a leader is too tough, you can make or break your group, you can make or break the team. And one of the things I struggle with is like, for example, if a leader, somebody above me, my manager, is asking me to do a task and he or she is micromanaging me, it really get under my skin. Leave me to do the job will be done, but some of us as leader, we micromanage. Where's the area where to let go and let the person develop, let the person grow? When a child is learning to walk, every time the child falls, as a parent, you don't keep running to pick that child up. The child has to learn. And so therefore, when we are in leadership and we have a team or a group, how do we balance the side where leaders step back and let the team or the group or an individual grow?
Well, you're right. When I talked about mindset is so aligned with mental toughness. What you're speaking to really focuses on the capabilities, the emotional intelligence of the leader. When a leader has good emotional intelligence and is astute, he or she knows this line between allowing folks on the team to implement and learn and when they need to step in. And so you heard me when I kept saying about you manage process and you don't manage people. And when people, when a leader is insecure, then that's when they tend to micromanage. And when they have levels of emotional intelligence that they need to work on, because an emotional intelligent leader knows the strengths of the people on the team.
Oh, yes.
He really works to their strength. And Gallup has put out all this whole focus about working to people's strengths. So when you know people's strengths, you don't have to micromanage them. It speaks back to the leader. Many times people, when they have just become a leader by position and don't have training, so they feel that leading is, let me tell them what to do. Yes. And that is not, leading. A leader really is influencing people to give their all, to give their best self in quest of that mission. And often untrained leaders, emotionally intelligent, less leaders they tend to micromanage, and you can always tell the level of effectiveness of a leader and their knowledge by how they treat their team.
Yes.
And you've heard me mention it before, if you read John's book, the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, and that's law number 1, the law of the lid. And so much of the effectiveness of that organization or that department, it'll never surpass that of that leader. Because if the leader is limited, he or she going to limit the people on the team.
Yes.
If he, is being either micromanaged, or if they're using antiquated approaches, because, it used to be the old mindset, I'm the leader, let me pull out the whip, and, and you're going to do what that kind of leadership doesn't work in this environment. It takes someone very skilled to be able to manage and lead teams in this day and age, because people bring a different mindset to work. People want to feel valued at work. They want their gifting. And so they don't need someone. You only hold someone's hands if you see that someone is really struggling. And even for that, you only do for a period. If that person needs some behavior modification, and even then you allow the person to go, because people learn by doing. They don't learn by somebody pulling out a whip. And so even when you're trying to do corrective behavior, you let the person try, or you model for them, and then you discuss it. People, even somebody who's incompetent, people do not respond well to micromanagement. And that's a telltale sign when a leader is ill-equipped himself or herself.
Yes, thank you very much. There's a lot more, but I'll give the platform for others to take part. Thank you very much, Dr. DeFoe.
Yes.
Thanks.
Dr. DeFoe, thank you so very much for that. I actually was going to let it pass me, but I think both of you open a very interesting dialogue and debate that needs to really be addressed when we're talking about leaders. And Dr. DeFoe, I applaud your submission and the way you answered. Here's one of the things that I would like to add value and strength, Dr. DeFoe, to what you shared, which is extremely correct. One of the things that I find when leaders micromanage is we have a lot of leaders who do not hire qualified people because they're cutting costs. If you hire a mason to do a carpenter's job, you're going to have to constantly be telling him which tool to use, how to use that tool sometimes. And a lot of times we have leaders choosing ill-equipped workers or persons that we're leading, and they don't have the ability or the capacity to do what has to be done. Now, based on the dynamic of leaders who know when I hire a carpenter to do a carpenter's job, I can leave and go home because I know, 1, he knows carpentry. 2, he has carpenter's tools. 3, he knows how to read a plan that is laid out. And 4, it is nothing foreign to him. So my confidence as a manager or as a leader is I will just go away and leave him to do his own job because that's his job. And I don't want to behave like I'm a carpenter when I hire a carpenter because I need a carpenter. And it's the same for a leader in any environment that he's in with employees or persons that he's leading. You want to know that person can handle it. Dr. DeFoe, in the class of steel, we know that in the class of steel, we have leaders and speakers. And I sit back and sometimes I'm quite comfortable because when you have somebody who can deliver, you don't have to micromanage. What is your take on that side of the response, Dr. DeFoe?
Oh, I so concur because many times, whether it is budget cuts or cost savings, or in some instances on the employer side, there is a skill gap, and so they hired who they could based upon the pool they could select. So there's many factors. So it can be sometimes the leader is just not skilled and doesn't know how to lead people, but sometimes it certainly is what you're saying, that it is a team effectiveness, lack thereof. And so the person finds themselves highly frustrated as a leader, because in terms of trying to accomplish something, if they don't micromanage every piece of the puzzle, that it'll never get done. And so it varies from organizations to organization, but certainly you're correct. Many instances that is what happens. It's just a talent gap. And if you Google right now, there was a skill gap prior to COVID-19. And now, you know, if you Google that, oh, there's the skill gap, particularly when it comes to being technologically savvy, when it comes to the workplace behaviors, employers are feeling challenged in that. So certainly what you said can be the cause of micromanaging in the absence of a leader just not being equipped to lead. It can be a talent issue that is forcing the person to micromanage.
I was just laughing when you said micro, and I was thinking about Microsoft, but trust me, Microsoft is proven to be micro difficult for those who are not computer savvy. Let's throw the question out. Zionist out of the UK, do you have a question or submission for Her Excellency Dr. DeFoe with such a wonderful presentation this evening? Zionist Amaka out of the United Kingdom, please.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you for giving me this platform. Thank you, Dr. DeFoe. I've enjoyed your lecture once again. And yeah, so much question, but I'm going to try and whittle it down to give others the platform to share. Now, I'm taking my question towards the political perspective of our leaders. It was in the news recently. I mean, we heard our Prime Minister go back on some of his election promises, i.e. by the increase of national insurance and some other promises that they've gone back on. And my question is this: if integrity dictates that we keep our words, even when it hurts, thus going back on his promises make him an ineffective leader?
Well, I would say this, that it doesn't say that the leader is totally without integrity. What happens if the scenario has changed? Sometimes, you know, when two things happen, politicians often say what they think people want to hear during the election run. So that could be one scenario. So sometimes politicians say something and they never meant it to begin with. It just was some happy talk, as I call it. And they say that. That happens a lot here in America, a lot of happy talk. The flip side of this sometimes is that politicians, based upon the data and the information that they have at that point in time, that program, that project, that service seems like it makes sense, that they feel that they could implement it. And then when they get into office, they realize that the factors have changed and they are not able to do it. And what was the best scenario, even when it hurts or it's painful, is for that leader to share why that perhaps they're not able to do it. I'll give you a short example. I covered an election once in an island nation in the Caribbean. The candidate had expressed that he was going to do certain things. And this isn't hearsay because I was covering the story and I actually was there in the swearing in. when the prime minister took over and the day of the swearing in, when he took over the government, every file cabinet in the government office was empty. The predecessor had stripped everything I mean, there wasn't a piece of paper in the file cabinet. So what the person had said that they were going to do and had campaigned on, they started from scratch because the information had all been removed. So it doesn't make somebody without integrity. Sometimes factors change. I think in response to your questions, it is explaining why. Most of the time people just want to know the why. And if you explain, maybe financial conditions shifted, maybe something in the supply, maybe there's some factor. What happens is when the leader, and this is whether a politician or anybody, when you don't give an explanation, people start creating their own version of what happened. And often the fiction becomes fact. And that's where the leader gets in trouble. Tell the people why. And so, long story short, I would say not necessarily a lack of integrity. Maybe if there's some reason why he can't keep his word, the best thing is to communicate it and share it.
Thank you.
Does that make sense?
Yes, Your Excellency. Yes, thank you very much. Yes.
But you're laughing, so that says to me no explanation has been given. So you're still wondering.
Dr. DeFoe, I want to add to your response in the defense. I'm going to use the right word for this statement, in the defense of a lot of politicians, a lot of employees, CEOs, or individuals that get into positions that they made some grandeur promises in lieu of prior knowledge pertaining to when they get into office. Sometimes when an individual is preparing to get into an office, the truth of the matter is no politician or minister knows exactly his portfolio when he's going into an office. That's the first thing most people are not fully aware of. As a matter of fact, the President of the United States of America got more surprises than you when he took the oath of office and went behind the scenes to become the president. He got more surprises than any of us. Why? Because there's some protocols that he will now be made aware of that he was not prior aware of. There's some treaties and relationships and covenants and agreements and 100-year policies and managers and all of these things that persons were not made aware of prior in some dynamics. And what happens is when you get into an office, then you realize, oops, I can't do that. But there's another clause. I can't do that, but I can't tell the world why not. Dr. DeFoe, I know you're with me in what I'm sharing as well. They cannot come to you and say, the reason why I cannot do this is because A, B, C, D, E, F. And the only thing that a lot of them could do sometimes is backpedal, sometimes is swallow the shame of their political office, and other times is look at another route to try to do what they would like to do. But the truth of the matter is, and even, for example, with our relationship, Dr. DeFoe, you and I both know that when we give our word, we are people of our word. But there are circumstances beyond our control lots of times that cause us to look like you are not being honest or truthful. But sometimes circumstances put us in very compromising positions. So in responding to you, Zionists, there is a place where there are those who blatantly lack integrity. Don't get me wrong. There is a place where there are those who blatantly lack integrity in performing what they say they will. However, I want us also to appreciate there are those who, before going in to see what was really on the inside, had all genuine intentions on delivering on what they say they're going to deliver on, or perform what they say they're going to perform, but upon getting inside of that office of authority, recognize they cannot do it. And hands up, they cannot do it, but equally, they cannot tell you. And as much as you might badger them, they will not be able to give a explanation. Dr. DeFoe, please share with me on that point, because I want it to be strengthened with your opinion as well.
Oh, most definitely, Your Excellency, because sometimes there's levels of security around information that perhaps, as you said, until they get fully in the office, they did not know. So many times it's not that the leader might not be a person of integrity. There can be security, there can be financial, there can be some factors. Because we're taking out of the mix those, because now there's some that just don't have any integrity. And even if all the lines, everything was lined up, they still wouldn't do what they said. They were just doing happy talk. So we taking those out of the mix. But those that have a whole heart, a servant heart, sometimes there's so many factors. And there's a lot of, security issues often when you take those levels of office that you didn't know. So no, you're right. It could be a range of factors that impede a politician's ability to do what they promised on the campaign trail.
Thank you so very much. Zionist, I'm going to allow you to respond there because it was your question, but I just want to know if that has added value to your concern and to others who might also be inquiring.
Yes, Your Excellency. I mean, the question has been answered from two dimensions, giving me clarity. Yes, so that's, I mean, I knew this, I knew some of this all along, but it's good to hear it from, the mouth of the experts to reinforce what I already know. So yes, I'll be more lenient towards Boris Johnson next time.
And if you're my friend, please give the Donald a break. The Donald got in way over his head, and I think he got some surprises too.
I do love him, though. I do love him, Your Excellency. I do love him. It's just, sometimes I'd like to ask him, put him on the spot as a mother, as a woman, on some of his key policies. But I do love him. Yeah, he's doing good for us.
I think one of the things in the class of steel that we want to do is give our ambassadors and leaders a rounded perspective. Yous are the authorities that are designed by the grace of God in this dispensation to calm a lot of the ignorance, the fears, the idiosyncrasies that exist out there. And the way that we do that is by having more information. More information that we can give individuals reasonable data that they can make more reasonable approaches to some of the things that they might approach in a very violent and upheaval way. A lot of times I don't join political upheavals and frustrations because I understand some of the inside dealings and persons like Her Excellency Dr. DeFoe. That's why we tirelessly do what we do. We don't want you to go out there and behave as though you know, and as though you're intelligent, and as though you have the knowledge and the ability and the capacity to discuss and debate on issues, but then when you sit on the table and you have more relevant, credible facts, then you feel so stupid. You feel so, oh my God. When I was an advisor to Scotland Yard, the Metropolitan Police, and when I was trained in Hendon, I'm going to be very honest with you. Your tolerance for ignorance and idiosyncrasy changes. It really does. Because you're privy to legislation, to policies, to modus operandis, to directives that are showing you a bigger picture. When you sit down and you look at how are you going to just add $20 to a person's salary when a person is frustrated and overwhelmed, you see $20. But if you look at 50 million people and $20 multiplied by 50 million, do the math. And sometimes those little things, you say, oh, that's small, but multiply 20 million by 50, by, I mean, 20 pounds by 50 million people. Multiply it and see how much money was just given into the cabinet's hands, and it has to disseminate this to 50 million people. So sometimes we need, as individuals, to be able to look at bigger pictures and identify, wow, here is why. Not that we agree with it, not that we approve it, not that we're satisfied, but at least we have a better score of understanding why the hands of our leaders are so tied and they are so restricted in some capacities. So thank you so very much for that stimulated question, because it was a very, very pertinent and relevant one. And Dr. DeFoe, thank you also for your submission, because I think we are teaching and mentoring individuals where it matters most, where they can make the right decisions to help others rather than jump on bandwagons and join fires that we could be calming and helping our society to be more tolerant of each other.
My pleasure.
I want to ask His Excellency Professor Barsi. I see you there, Professor, and I know that you came into the class late, but I think you would have gleaned a little bit from what we were sharing and discussing. And I just want your take on what you think that you can comment on as far as you have received from the class this evening. Professor Barsi, please introduce yourself and where you're from, and just kind of share your thoughts on the discussion this evening.
Shalom, everyone. Shalom, everybody.
Shalom.
Shalom.
Please, you let me follow. With my apology of coming late. Actually, it escaped my schedule for the evening. I just came back from a conference in the Benin Republic, and it's been very hectic. And I came in a lot of work, on me. And the judiciary, I am also a judicial staff. I'm one of the judges in the court. I'm also in the academic, circle with a private university. I also function as a royal, head of the family, the royal head of the community. And I'm also a bishop, of an institution. So this keeps me always sleepless. So I'm really very sorry, to come late. In fact, I want to say kudos to Dr. Comfort, who reminded me on our platform that the class is on. So I tried to connect earlier, but I didn't have the link. So I requested for the link, and she sent to me, and I came in. It's quite awesome. Kudos, to everyone. Dr. DeFoe, wonderful presentation. My president, my governor, my mentor, Dr. Mike. I am hearing from your voice for the first time. Very, very wonderful indeed. I understand you've been on research. You've been away from the other classes, and we're happy to have you. Welcome back home. And for Zionist's wonderful brainstorming question. Leadership is a challenge of mankind. It's a real problem of our communities, it's a problem of our society, it's a national problem, it's an international problem. Yes, well, I agree with all the points you have made. Sometimes it's not just enough for subjects to look at people in leadership and then the apportion blames. It's not that too correct. And you may not actually understand what it is at the apex until when you get there. Throughout my service with NNPC, the oil industry, when we were trade unionists, at the grassroots as members, aspiring to be leaders, of the workforce, the workers, management, we were agitating and showing muscles and, being aggressive, but we only discovered that gave us, a shoot up, to win our election. But when we got there, the ball changed. The whole system changed. The policies, the management told us, yes, you are the people's manager. You don't talk like you used to talk the other side. Here we have a policy, and this is the rules of the game, and all that. And all that. We find ourselves handicapped. And then our workers, our representative, we now see us as black legs, black legs, that we have sold out. So one of the things I did was I took my time to explain. Yes, when we were there, we were talking like you are talking. If you have an opportunity to come to me, to come to my level, you begin to see things in a more perspective, just like you mentioned. It's not just enough for you to say only $20. By the time you multiply it and you see the weight it will have, in the entire budget. And the management said, sorry, we have a limited budget and we cannot reach out. We can't go beyond here. Oh, the workers will now say, no, we want it. You must negotiate it. Hey. So I will come and I say, sorry, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, it is not so. Hey, you are on the management side. You are on the management side. You are beginning to dine and wine with them. You are taking a lot of gratification. We said, no, that's not it. But the truth is, let's sit back home and now pick them from their home. I said, now you are a worker, you go home. Your wife is expecting so much. Your children are expecting so much. Other dependents, are also expecting so much. But you have just little salary to meet up. And when you are not able to educate them, they think you are stingy, you're missing, So it's good to stand out sometimes as a leader, tell the bulls by the horn, irrespective of who's cross, you will tell them the truth. There is no money in this system. And this is all that we have. You just have to be part of the system, manage it with us, see it with us, and until you get the people sometimes to understand what you are going through, they will not believe you. They will not believe you. So what I do is I also make suggestion to the management. I say, sometimes let's have an open forum. Yeah. Give the people opportunity to ask questions. Okay, when they ask questions, you can now give direct response. That will also help us and save us. So leadership actually is not easy. Even with Jesus, he was a suspect. In many areas, they misunderstood him. He was suspected, and sometimes he kept quiet. So sometimes too, we use the power of silence, and allow the Holy Spirit to minister to people, and we go into prayers and all that. Even in the church, you find yourself where after the service, people are queuing up rather than going with the word of God that he have given them to live with and transform them. They still come back asking for transport. Someone is telling you they don't have a rent, they don't have a school fees and all that. And they are thinking that, oh, the whole crowd is contributing tithe and offering, and only you, the head, is eating. No. So sometimes it's not really easy. So I agree with all the points. And God will help us. We'll get to somewhere. But I thank God for the class of steel. I must confess, of all the organizations I've joined so far, I think this one is most unique and wonderful. And it's so selective. I like the class of people, and everybody's opinion is geared towards the national standard. With this class, we can graduate a lot of us, who are new. Never mind the title. I'm a student on this ground. Please, I'm a student. I'm a student, and every day I'm receiving. I'm also improving myself. God bless you all. Thank you so much. Thank you. I love you. I love you, Honor.
Well, let's celebrate the professor, the class of steel way. Let's celebrate.
Okay, I have never had this before.
Professor,
I've never had this hand wave.
Dr. DeFoe, I would allow you to, before I do so, I will allow you to officially welcome the professor as one of our official patriot and members of the class of steel officially. But Dr. DeFoe, you are our senior lecturer, and I want you to endorse him, welcome him, and just give your take on the statement of the professor. Please, Your Excellency, Dr. DeFoe, over to you.
Well, your professor, indeed is an honor and privilege to meet you and to welcome you into the class of Still. I so appreciate your insightful comments, and we welcome your expertise and your sharing with us here in the class of Still in the circle. As you said, leadership is indeed part art and part science, and a leader finds him or herself challenged each and every day with the scenarios, the personalities that they find themselves confronted with. So I certainly thank you for sharing, because for all of us as leaders, we're often confronted with things that you don't find in a textbook or no one can tell you about. And so this is why I say that leadership is certainly art and science, because while there's some scientific, there's some models, you and I both know that leading certainly comes from a heart and a soul and a spirit, because it is about being able to connect with people, to better understand and empathize with people. And you're right, it doesn't matter whether you're in a public or a private sector entity, whether you're in a faith base, the expectations that people have of leaders can be quite daunting. So I certainly celebrate you. I thank you, and I look forward to more exchanges as we talk about the practice of leadership in global settings. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Go ahead, Professor.
Oh, I'm appreciating you, sir. I appreciate. Thank you for the comment.
Thank you so very much. Thank you so much, Professor. I want to acknowledge and identify Her Excellency Bishop Dr. Comfort Adu, who is responsible for West Africa region. She's also responsible for the monarchs of the nations, and she's also responsible for Ghana and other regions and those who she brings to the class of Steel as leaders. Bishop Dr. Comfort Adu, would you please unmute yourself? And this evening we want to appreciate you for the professor, and I hope that and before I say that, am I correct in stating that the professor is here as a result of your invitation?
You are right, Your Excellency.
And what I would like for you to do, Your Excellency, is you have my full authority to submit his bio to us and his full profile, and we will of course make him one of our trusted, respected leader members within the class of Steel. And I hope that the professor would be pleased to not just be a professor in person sitting and a student, but allow his professorship to grant us the ability and the privilege of sitting at his feet at any appointed time, where we can also feed from his wisdom that will also cause us to be more equipped as students of ever learning. So over to you, Bishop Comfort, please.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Bishop Dr. Michael Steele. Yes, he was introduced to me by His Royal Majesty. And after listening to him for several occasions in our conversations, I could see that he's a man of substance. And if he is part of our group, we'll make it to some level. So I chipped in him this evening. I've been talking about you to him, that you've been busy doing some research for the class of Steel, and then you show up when time is up. So that is why he was missing you. And on another note, I will say that I've been so strong this evening. We'll be receiving guests for our event tomorrow in our university. But one thing about leadership, it has its own ball game. And Her Excellency Dr. DeFoe placed it in a different and an entirely different level, as I see it. And I thank her so much for her presentation. One thing I learned when I was in the Union Front, the professor just said one or two things, and my mind went back. What helped me was that I looked at leadership as not to lord over the people, as Jesus put it, but to serve. And that helped me. Right from the time I was introduced into our union in about 1974, right through when I left 2006, I looked at myself as a servant. And even now, in the ministerial role, I always want to serve. Because when you serve, it limits the tendency of being proud, the tendency of being arrogant, the tendency of doing certain things that people pinpoint at and then as a leader, make you fall. And I also saw to it that I don't struggle in my leadership process. I don't struggle. Every election, sometimes I've been called to come in before I come. And if somebody is ahead of me and the person is doing so well, I don't contest that person because I know that it is work, it is service. If the person is doing so well, I don't see the reason why I should contest him. I always wait for the person's time of office to be out. And then if I want the status of the person, I just enter in. And one thing I also learned about leadership during my tenure was that you have to relate to the people in the same way. You don't have to see yourself as higher before them. And one thing I was also doing is that when there was a time when I entered into the higher hierarchy in our union as a national vice president, I was shuttling between Kumasi and Accra. And I also doubled as the national treasurer when the treasurer traveled away for 1 year to study. Because of my track record in treasurership, I would say it this way, I was begged. They begged me to take that position. But because of what I suffered during my regional treasurership, I saw that when you are a treasurer, everybody thinks that the dress you wear, even the food you eat and everything that you do is out of their money. I remember one time when my late husband brought a car into the office. The church purchased a car and he passed by just to pick me home. And one of the executive members went around saying, "Look at that. So Comfort has gone to buy car with our money." And then the secretary got up and said, "What are you saying? The money that come here we share to all the 18 districts. And what is remaining cannot even buy a car tie. And even she is not the only person who signed the check. And she is not the only person who goes even to the bank. It's the chairman and the secretary and the treasurer." And he became so offended. That is where the man helped me in that way by saying that. And I told myself that whenever I get out of this position as a treasurer, I will never take it again. So everywhere I go and they are sharing position, I try to get out of it. But when I got to the national level and the national treasurer had to go abroad to study, I was asked that I should take the position. They begged before finally I accepted because I didn't want any trouble. So I was going up and down, going to Accra sometimes to check the book, coming back. And one thing I realized is that when I go to Accra and I have to go for lunch, either if I have enough money, then I go for lunch because I'm prepared to buy food for at least 2 or 3 people. Other than that, it will appear differently. So I see leadership as not only as an example, but also as sharing your lives with people so that they will know that you're not lording over them. you are rather when you are rather making it the best for them. So thank you, Your Excellency, Ambassador before for your nice presentation, so awesome. I also take this opportunity to greet all the excellencies on the house and everybody who is here today. It's pleasant being with you all. It's a nice family. It's a nice family. Initially, I didn't think that I could even get time and sit in the class of sleep, but over the months, I found it very interesting. And even today, look at it, I'm so tired, but I said, no, let me listen to what is on the table. Thank you so much for being there for us, encouraging us. Thank you, and good night. Greetings from Ghana. I love you all.
We love you. We love you too, and we appreciate you. We celebrate you, Ma. You celebrated in the class of Steve, and we look forward to great things. Your Excellency, Dr. DeFoe. I want to. I know some of you would see Dr. DeFoe. She's been going long hours, and her commitment to the class of Steel is like mine. And I want to appreciate her for her time. I want to appreciate her for her commitment. And I want to applaud her that she works tirelessly. A lot of us here, individuals talking about working tirelessly. But when you see someone that they give their all, but then you see that they're really dear, I just want to applaud her and her commitment to us. Your Excellency Olukoya Olusegun, I'm going to let you share your thoughts publicly. Just share your thoughts with us, and I will respond to your question or comment if you have any for this evening's session. Your Excellency Olukoya.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, and Dr. Anita Davis-DeFoe. Some questions asked before now. Very robust class, and so many points, here and there. To put down, but I just want to ask a question this night. I will have asked, so in other words, he has already given up on that person. Of course, we need to organize ourselves. We need to organize, choose, make choices, evaluate, and then under the principles of priority, we are encouraged,
Your Excellency Olukoya, I want to, you've just gone off. I want you, Your Excellency Olukoya, can you unplug, if you're using an earphone with a cable, could you unplug it and just use your mobile alone, your mobile audio microphone, if it is possible, to see if you get a better reception. Please try to communicate again, but without the earpiece, because you have static in your earpiece, it sounds like.
Hello, Your Excellency. Can you hear me?
That's perfect. Please don't use the cable anymore. Get a new one or throw that one away, but that's perfect. Thank you. Go ahead.
Noted, Your Excellency. In leadership, as we've been told, we are to inspire and to ensure that people become better than themselves, than who they used to be, particularly proud to them coming into contact with us. At what point do we, as to not wasting time? Because when you talk of leadership, you talk of time, you talk of resources, you talk of energy and all of that. At what point do you just put a stop or draw a line of divide to try to get this leadership stuff imbibed in the person, since we understand that leadership can be taught? At what point do we draw a line and say, okay, if I get to XYZ point, I would just conclude that there is no way I can get through to this person, and then I will rather invest the remaining time on these other people, rather than just trying to keep doing it and just keep going. I just want to know the point at which, not really saying that we are giving up, probably just categorize the person. Maybe the person is not going to make it up, make it as a leader, maybe probably remain either at the management level or something. So that's just my question this evening, Your Excellency.
I think I will answer that question with so much joy, and I'll tell you why I'll answer that question with so much joy, specifically that question. And as a matter of fact, for those who did not hear the question clearly, the question basically was, at what time do you give up as a mentor in trying to bring somebody to a place where they're going to be a leader? At what point do you recognize, you know what, this person is not getting it, this person is inadequate, inept, or whatever, and you just throw your towel in? At what point do you do that? That's the question you're asking. Is that correct?
Absolutely, Your Excellency. Thank you.
Okay, so I will answer it this way. I'll answer it this way, and it's very interesting. We are students of knowledge, lifelong learning. And the first student that I always consider is myself. I am a student, and I will always be a student. In the financial world, I have mentors that look at me and they're waiting for me to raise another level. In the leadership role as a minister, I have individuals who are looking at me and are waiting for me to reach another level. In my family, as a husband, as a father, my wife is looking at me and I'm trying to reach another level as a good father. And in our lives, we discover that we are always aspiring to do better, always. And we will never reach. This is an important point to note. We will never reach. I say to individuals, nation, it's a journey. It's not a destination. Being a leader is not a destination. It is not a destination, it's a journey. I think individuals that go to university and they get a degree is a destination. Because when you get that qualification, you have completed that degree. But leadership and being a leader is not a destination. That's the first thing you need to take note of. It's not a destination, it's a journey. And for me as a mentor, I never give up on anybody. And I really didn't want to say this publicly because some of you will catch on to it and might use it against me. But because you asked the question, I have to answer you. As a mentor, my wife will tell you, unfortunately, I don't give up on any person whatsoever. Nobody. What actually happens is individuals give up on themselves, or they give up on my ability to be their mentor. You're quiet because you might not understand what I just said, so I'll say it again. I never give up on any person whatsoever. I do not. There are persons that I have been mentoring for years, and if they call me after not talking to me for 2 years or 3 years or 4 years or even 5 years, I am still going to be the mentor that I have always been to them. And I'm still going to believe that the first time that person spoke to me with a desire to be a great leader, I'm still going to believe this person still has that potential. And this moment that they have come back to me could be the time they will get it. The truth of the matter is, a lot of us give up on ourselves. Why did I say that? I gave up on myself as being a husband and a potentially good husband. I still need my wife's reassurance all the time because of my failed marriages and the difficulties I've been through. I still need my wife's continued assurance as a young man. You, Olukoya, have individuals that you're going to look at them. You're mentoring them. You're going to look at them and see, as a great mentor, your role is to see that they will be great leaders. Your role is to see that nothing on the earth can disqualify them from being a great leader, but their own desire to push through the barriers that they're facing. And you can't make somebody push through any barrier. You can't make any person push through and overcome any obstacle. You can just give them information, and you can just give them the confidence that if they push through it, they'll be successful. So what does that mean? It means that you never give up on any person, no matter what. However, you give up on being the person initiating the process. You see, when I say I'm going to mentor Olukoya, I give Olukoya instructions and ideas, and I call you and I follow up with you. When I perceive that you are not taking it serious, when I perceive that you're not growing the way I expect, then I back off and I leave it in your hands. And if you do not follow up, I leave it. But when you choose to follow up, then I will back it up. I hope that I have answered your question, and I hope you don't think that that is a modus operandi for mentors, because it's not. It's not a modus operandi for mentors. It is my modus operandi, because my tolerance might be different than yours. My expectation might be different than yours. There are mentors that will cut you off. Are they right? Are they wrong? No, they're not right or they're not wrong. That is their modus operandi. That is the way that they work. How do I work is not a recommendation. How I work is just an opinion. Your Excellency Olukoya, I will let you respond.
Yeah, you have answered my question, and it's just words, that you just expressed. Because at the end of the day, even though you may not verbalize it, one will not give up on anybody. I agree totally with you, Your Excellency. But you allow the person to initiate if the person is actually serious in moving to the next level. Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
And one thing that I will tell you about a team, a beautiful team. My wife's tolerance is different than mine. And I value my wife's tolerance. His Excellency Donald Ewers and Her Excellency Bishop Comfort and Zionist, all of us have different tolerance levels. And in a team, when you're a leader, one of the greatest attributes of being a leader is being able to trust the instinct of those that are a part of your team. If Minister Ewers tells me, stop wasting your time with Joe, I will tell you the honest truth. Joe has lost an opportunity, not by my choice, but by the fact that I honor my team and I listen, because there are things that my team might see that I might not see. and I need to take their advice. If my wife does not like a person, I tell every person who knows me, if my wife does not like you, I am not going to entertain you very much. I will not. And the reason is because my wife is an intricate part of my decision-making process. And if I ignore an intricate part of my decision-making process, then I weaken myself to make reasonable and wise decisions. If you have a process in place and a litmus for what you're doing, trust your litmus. Always trust your litmus and don't justify it. So therefore, remember, Olukoya, if your wife tells you stop wasting your time, please stop wasting your time, because you're wasting your time is also wasting her time, because she's advising you and she's instructing you.
Yes. Absolutely, you are right, Your Excellency.
Why are you laughing? I hear your laughter. What is your laughter in closing?
No, I just remember some instances where she has been correct. Probably I ignored those suggestions from her, so that's why I just laughed.
So I hope you give her a public apology and say, darling, I will try much more harder to use my litmus wisely.
Yes, I want to publicly apologize to my wife. All those points where I did not listen to your wise counsel. I assure you that it won't happen again. Yes. Because
well, I don't think I would get so courageous and tell First Lady that it won't happen again, but I could tell her when it happens, if it happens, I will apologize. First Lady Jeannie, you are there. I don't know if you're able to unmute from your tedious task, but can you unmute First Lady Jeannie and just let us close off with your thoughts before we close, Your Excellency Jeannie Steele?
Hello, everyone. Good night to you and God blessings to you all and your families. I am not quite up to speed at what you and Olukoya were speaking about because I was actually dealing with another matter here. So I do apologize for not being able to lend my voice in such regard. But what I would want to say is thank you all for being here. I thank Her Excellency Dr. Anita Davis-DeFoe for her presentation on leadership. It's always very good to hear from her and learn from her. She has a wealth of information, great information to share, and she's always quite clear in doing so. So I thank her once again for doing that. And I thank you all for being here and also sharing your thoughts, because we also learn from you when you share your perspective on any situation or any topic that we are discussing. So God bless you all once again, and do have a wonderful, wonderful and safe weekend.
You know, one of the things I celebrate you, First Lady, is you're so honest, and your honesty adds to your beauty. When you don't hear, you say you don't hear, and you're not afraid to boldly confess. I didn't hear because I was busy and I was unable to be there at the moment. Thank you so very much for your submission, ma'am. I love you dearly, and we in the class of Steel celebrate you dearly, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Well, this evening, I want to thank everyone for being with us, and we've gone way over time. I realize that our classes are getting much longer. Our conversations are becoming more intellectually stimulating, but one thing I hope is that our friendships are becoming much tighter. I look forward to those who will be with us on Saturday tomorrow for the youth class. You're very welcome to join us. Your Excellency Bishop Comfort, Zionist, Your Excellency Dr. U.S. Olukoya, all those who were with us this evening, Your Royal Majesty, thank all of you for being here. The professor, thank you guys. I'm His Excellency Dr. Michael Steele. You've just heard from the class of Steele. And today, again, is the 10th of September, 2021. Good evening and God bless you. You can listen to our broadcast again live on YouTube, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and other social media platforms. Thank you so very much for being with us. Good evening and God bless you. Bye for now. Your Excellency Bishop Comfort, good night and God bless. Minister yours, good night and God bless, Your Excellency.